Before we dive into today's story, there's something you should know. In Korea, there's a spiritual figure called a mudang, or a traditional Korean shaman. A mudang performs rituals known as gut to communicate with spirits, ancestors, and gods, resolving personal problems, predicting future events, and providing spiritual guidance. They're also known for their abilities to interact directly with ghosts, sometimes helping these spirits find peace, or even performing exorcisms to drive away malevolent entities. To make it easier for you to follow, we'll simply call the mudang a shaman in today's story. Hey everyone, today I've got a wild story to share that I heard from my buddy Chang-sik. It's one of those tales that grabbed me by the throat and wouldn't let go. He told me about something that happened to him in the military. And let me tell you, the military's this mysterious world most folks don't really get. It's got its own rules, its own vibe, like stepping into a hidden society. Chang-sik said he worked as a drill instructor at a recruit training battalion, so he figured he'd better set the scene for me to really get what went down. When he first enlisted as a trainee, he walked into this gritty, chaotic place where they had this award you could earn after 5 weeks of training. Only 5 guys out of the whole batch got it, and the prize, an extra 4 days of leave. Imagine that. You're a trainee, stuck in this grueling routine, and 4 extra days off is like a lifeline dangled in front of you. Chang-sik told me he was dead set on snagging that award. He said he poured everything into it. His natural stamina helped, sure, but he pushed himself to the limit, taking on roles like squad leader trainee, barking orders in the freezing dawn air, sweat dripping even as his breath fogged up in front of him. He could still hear the cheers from his buddies when he actually won it, their claps echoing off the barracks walls. But here's the kicker. He found out later, when he became a drill instructor himself, that winning that award was a double-edged sword. In the training battalion, every move a trainee makes is under the instructor's hawk-like watch. The barracks halls amplify every footstep, every grunt. They see it all. There's this slang they use. That guy's an ace. If you're tagged as top tier, the instructors lock their eyes on you thinking, he's gotta be my next guy. Anyone who's been to a regular unit knows the drill instructors cherry-pick the best before anyone else gets a shot. Chang-sik was no exception. One day, after a brutal training session, he's standing there in his sweat-soaked uniform, catching his breath, when this drill instructor strolls up and goes, "Hey, Chang-sik, wanna be an instructor?" Kept asking him too, but Chang-sik had this older friend back in civilian life who drilled into him. Being an instructor's a ton of work and pure hell. Don't do it. So he was dead set on dodging it, throwing out excuses like, "Oh, my body's all messed up. I've got aches everywhere," trying to laugh it off even though his voice was shaking. Thing is, these instructors have heard every dodge in the book. This guy raises an eyebrow, smirks, and says, "Oh, really? You're killing it out there though. Great stamina. If you don't sign up, I'll ship you off to my old recon unit up front." Then he leans in, voice dropping low. "You'll be waving at North Koreans, stepping on landmines. Sounds fun, right?" Chang-sik said that look in the instructor's eyes was no joke. It pierced right through him in the chilly training yard air. Sure, it probably wouldn't have gone that far, but as a scared trainee, his heart sank like a rock. He told me he felt cornered, like he had no choice but to choke back tears and say, "Yes, sir, I'll do it." So fast forward, time flies, and Chang-sik hits that point where he's a seasoned corporal, past the halfway mark of his rank. In military lingo, that's when your time's bent. Like if Corporal's 7 months, you're over the hump, a veteran. By then, he'd climbed the ladder to become the platoon's head instructor, the top dog, kinda like a homeroom teacher at school. He told me he'd gone through it all, starting as a wide-eyed trainee, slogging through every stage, and now he's the one calling the shots, managing his whole platoon. The days were packed with the sound of boots clomping down corridors, barked orders bouncing off concrete, and the smell of sweat hanging thick in the air. Now, here's something most folks, even some vets, might not know. Instructors make new trainees fill out this thing, like a personal record sheet when they first arrive. Picture a bunch of nervous kids hunched over, scribbling down stuff like what their parents do, any quirks or personal stories from their lives, pens scratching against paper in the dim barracks light. Chang-sik, as head instructor, got to see all of these, and he said it's crucial because some trainees come in with medical waivers or issues like, I've got high blood pressure, can't do this, so instructors can spot who's got what going on. One guy even wrote, I'm an only son, like that's gonna get him special treatment. These sheets are top secret though. If they leak, rumors spread like wildfire among the trainees, so it's a sensitive deal. One day, Chang-sik's flipping through these records, and he stumbles on one that makes his eyes pop. This trainee wrote that his mom's a shaman, a spiritual medium. And get this, the kid added, I can see and feel spirits too, with details like, I see ghosts, scribbled out in shaky handwriting. Chang-sik told me his jaw dropped like, what the heck is this? He said each training cycle brought in over 270 guys, so over his whole service, he saw more than 5,000 trainees pass through. You'd get all kinds. Some were like living legends, totally wild characters. Guys claiming they saw ghosts weren't even that rare, he said. So at first, he didn't buy it. Early on, he'd brush off stuff like that. Oh, another attention seeker, maybe send him to psych camp, and not think much of it. But this time, it hit different. He nicknamed this kid Trainee 100, and there's a reason it stuck with him. First, he gave me the rundown on how training works. It's split into 5 weeks. Week 1's all about drills, standing at attention, saluting till your arms numb. Week 2's shooting, including night firing where gunshots rip through the dark. Week 3's chemical training, gas masks and choking heat. Week 4's grenades. Week 5's combat drills. So, it's around week 3, Chang-sik says. The chemical training site's about 2 miles from their 4-story barracks, so all the trainees march there in a single file line. Safety first, since they're lugging rifles. If you've been in, you know the drill. They trudge down those stairs, boots clanging on metal steps, breathing heavy. When something happens up front, word travels back. Someone's hurt, passed down the line like a game of telephone. Chang-sik, being head instructor, hangs back at the rear, keeping an eye on everything. The echo of stomping feet ringing in his ears, the air thick with tension. Suddenly, he hears it. Pass it back, pass it back, pass it back, rippling down from the front. His gut twists, heart thumping like a drum. Something's up, he mutters, asking the guy at the end what's going on. The kid's wide-eyed, stammering that all hell broke loose on the 3rd floor as they were descending from the 4th. What's happening? Chang-sik presses, but the trainee's a mess, so he bolts up himself, feet pounding the stairs, each creak underfoot spiking his nerves. He gets to the 3rd floor, chest heaving, and there's trainee 100, curled up in this gap between the staircases, trembling like a leaf. They hadn't even started chemical training, but this kid's got tears and snot streaming down his face, eyes wild with terror. Chang-sik rushes over, voice sharp but steady. "Hey, what's wrong?" "Calm down." But the kid's a wreck, shaking uncontrollably. Chang-sik told me the air felt icy right then, like something was off. He yells to his assistant squad leader, "Get the rest moving. Send them down. Don't let this hold us up." Then he squats next to trainee 100, trying to talk him down. After a few minutes, the kid steadies a bit, breath hitching, and finally speaks. He says there's a terrifying, dangerous spirit right there on the 3rd floor, in that exact spot. If we leave it alone, something bad's gonna happen. This ghost keeps saying it's dangerous. He stammers over and over. Chang-sik said the kid's eyes were brimming with fear, like he was staring at something real, something right in front of him. But here's the thing. Trainees pulling weird stunts wasn't new. Chang-sik had seen it before, so he didn't believe it at first. Back then, he didn't buy into ghost stuff at all. He figured it was just another freakout. Still, his job was to calm the kid down, so he says, "All right, I'll handle it," soothing him, feeling the kid's trembling hands under his grip. "We'll deal with it later. Let's get to the chemical site first," he coaxes, practically dragging him up and sending him off. Chang-sik told me that kids hunched back as he shuffled away, stuck with him, nagging at his gut. If you've served, you know about internet letters. Families or girlfriends write messages on this site, about a page long, and they get handed out once a day. It's the one thing trainees cling to, that little spark of hope. This was week 4, right before grenade training, and trainee 100's mom sent her first letter ever. Most moms or girlfriends write daily, so Chang-sik was curious. "First one, huh? Bet it's packed with stuff." He opens it, and it's one line. "Watch out for the Pinecone." That's it. Chang-sik said he blinked at it like, "Watch out for the Pinecone? What?" It was so short he wondered if he should even bother passing it on. Then it hit him, this chill running down his spine. Pinecone. Like a grenade shape. His heart skipped a beat. Is this just a be careful with grenades or what? Why Pinecone though? He brushed it off, but it gnawed at him. Grenade and firing range days are tense for instructors. Chang-sik said they used fragmentation grenades back then, and a jittery trainee could toss one the wrong way. Instructors turned into babysitters. "Hey, you got this. Take it easy. Because one mistake's a disaster," Chang-sik told me. That note left this uneasy weight in his chest, like a warning he couldn't shake. So, week 4 rolls around, pre-training's done, and they're heading to the grenade range. They're back at those stairs, and there it is again. "Pass it back, pass it back, pass it back," echoing down the line. Chang-sik said his breath caught in his throat, a cold sweat breaking out as that familiar dread kicked in hard. So, Chang-sik told me that as they were heading down the stairs to the grenade training site, that eerie, "Pass it back, pass it back, pass it back," call started echoing from the front. He said his breath caught in his throat right then, this cold dread washing over him. He's at the back of the line, the sound of boots clanging on the metal steps and the trainees' ragged breathing filling the corridor, when that message hits him like a punch. His hand grips the icy railing, sweat slicking his palm as the noise bounces off the concrete walls, shadows flickering wildly in the dim light. "What now?" he mutters, peering ahead, his mind racing straight to trainee 100. "Oh, trainee 100's at it again," he thought, letting out a heavy sigh. probably freaking out about grenades. His mom even sent that letter. Maybe he's just trying to slack off. They all kept descending, but Chang-sik said his head was a mess, each step feeling like it dragged him deeper into something heavy. This can't keep happening, he told himself. I tried calming him down nicely up there, but this won't cut it anymore. I've got to lay down the law. The thud of boots and the shifting shadows made his stomach churn harder with every floor they dropped. But as they went, he caught Trainee 100 glancing at him sideways, a look laced with resentment and fear that stabbed right into his chest. Chang-sik said it stopped him cold for a second, those eyes burning with a mix of terror and something unspoken. They finally hit the third floor, that same spot where Trainee 100 had lost it before, the gap between the staircases. The air felt thick, a faint draft whistling through like a low moan, brushing against Chang-sik's neck and raising the hairs on his arms. He was catching his breath, scanning the space, when he realized the problem wasn't Trainee 100 this time. The kid shuffled past with that haunted stare, but then Chang-sik saw it. Another trainee sprawled out in that exact spot. He said the sight hit him like a brick. The guy must have tripped coming down with all that heavy gear, the clunky combat load dragging him off balance, and his shin bone was snapped clean through. Chang-sik could see the jagged edge poking out, blood pooling on the floor, the sticky metallic stench hitting his nose like a wave. Holy crap, this is bad, he thought, his heart seizing up as panic clawed at his throat. For a split second his mind went blank. What do I do? Before he snapped out of it and roared, "Medic! Get a medic!" His voice cracked, echoing up the stairwell as trainees stumbled around in chaos, the medic's pounding footsteps racing closer. It was a full-on mess. Within minutes, that poor guy was stretchered off, sirens wailing as they rushed him straight to the Armed Forces Capital Hospital, not some local clinic. Chang-sik said the sound of that ambulance fading away stuck in his ears like a ghost. Then the company commander stormed over, face red, bellowing, "How'd you let this happen under your watch? This is on you!" The guy's voice boomed through the hall, ringing in Chang-sik's ears until they buzzed, his whole body locking up like he'd been hit. But they couldn't stop. The training had to go on, so they scrambled to the grenade range in a frantic blur, dust kicking up under their boots as they went. Chang-sik said he didn't even have time to think. Trainee 100 nailed it again. It was all just a haze of adrenaline. They got to the range and started with the blue practice grenades, tossing them a few times before handing out the real deal. Chang-sik told me the setup there was wild. A 10-meter drop into a ravine-like pit filled with water, designed so the blast wouldn't deafen everyone outside. He said, if you've never seen a grenade go off, you can't imagine the power. It's insane. Even from that depth, water shoots up like a geyser, and the first-timers always freeze, jaws dropped. The trainees were buzzing, half thrilled, half terrified, joking, "Whoa, I'm gonna throw a grenade." But Chang-sik said they didn't need to hush them. When that first live one went boom, the ground shook. The roar tore through their bones and every single one clammed up instantly. He called it a shock wave, sound so fierce it rattles your core. From then on, the instructors were on edge, guts twisting with every move. They're in this U-shaped trench, tossing grenades, and instead of assistants, it's the career officers, lifers, standing by each trainee. Chang-sik's at the rear, eyes locked on them, the wind whistling past the trench edge, stirring up dirt that stings his face. Every time a grenade lands in a hand, that "watch out for the Pinecone" line loops in his head, relentless. The trainee's fingers tremble just enough to notice, and Chang-sik's pulse quickens. Then it clicks. Wait, trainee 100 warned me about that third floor spot, and bam, accident. Is this for real? A chill crawls up his spine, goosebumps prickling his skin. I've got to watch this like a hawk, he told himself, squinting against the dust. Chang-sik said in all his time as an instructor, he'd seen guys chicken out on grenade throws, but never an accident until now. This one trainee steps up, a sharp kid, nailing the stance. Chang-sik's just observing, but you're supposed to release at a 45-degree angle, like chucking a rock. This guy, though, tenses up too much. His hand's supposed to let go high, but he drags it down and releases too late. The grenade bounces inside the trench, pins out, live and ticking, but the officer's staring outward, expecting it to sail over. Chang-sik, wired tight, catches it dropping and screams, "Out of the trench! Grenade!" His voice rips through the air, throat raw, time freezes. The trench air goes dead, his heart slamming against his ribs, sweat soaking his back. The officer spins, spots it, and kicks it toward this tiny drainage hole at the bottom, meant for emergencies like this, and it flies out just as boom hits. Chang-sik said he'd never felt a blast that close. The explosion shredded his ears, rocked his whole body, dust blinding him as a high-pitched whine drilled into his skull. Officers, trainees, even the commander nearby, all stunned, silent, faces pale. The kid who flubbed it stammers, "I'm so sorry," over and over. But Chang-sik, shaking himself, says, "It's fine. Nerves get you sometimes. Just relax and throw." He told me his hands were trembling bad after that. That was the peak of his first month. After it wrapped, the officer pulls him aside and goes, "If you hadn't yelled, me and that kid were goners. Headline news material." He said, "Fuse burns 3-4 seconds. You shaved off 2 with that call. Inside, it would have blown us apart." Chang-sik told me his head went numb, legs wobbling like jelly. 2 predictions lined up, the 3rd floor fall, and now this grenade scare. The second tipped off by that mom's note. From then on, he started trusting trainee 100. There were other small incidents too he said he'd get to later. One day, trainee 100 says, "Squad leader, watch your eyes today, especially the right." By then, Chang-sik took him seriously, so he filed that warning away. Next day, he's sprinting through the barracks, out of breath from a crazy schedule, hitting this U-shaped corridor turn. Lights flicker overhead, boots squeaking on the floor, when a trainee rounds the corner. Helmet on, rifle slung, mid-drill, they're about to crash, and Chang-sik sees the barrel swinging right at his eye. No time to slow down. He jerks his head, thinking, "Oh crap!" The barrel misses, but the helmet clips his eye corner, tearing it open, blood trickling warm down his cheek. The kid panics. "Sorry, sir." But Chang-sik, keeping his cool for instructor cred, goes, "Nah, my fault running. Get going," and bolts to patch it up. Staring at the bandage later, he thought, that could have been way worse. Chills running down his back again. Another night, it's 10 p.m. Lights out. Everyone's asleep. Chang-sik's in the barracks with them. Think Blue Tower. That cramped room with a desk piled high with papers, a flickering bulb casting shaky shadows. He sleeps there, sorts files, yells out the window if the kids get loud. Around 11, the night guard bangs the door. Something's off. Chang-sik jumps up, heart racing, and finds trainee 100 trembling, eyes locked somewhere with pure dread. The barracks air's cold, wind howling outside like a whisper. "What's up? Seeing stuff again?" he asks. A ghost crawling on the walls? I can't sleep, sir. Sorry, the kid says, voice quivering. Dangerous? Chung-sik presses. No, just creepy. Cackling, climbing around. Chung-sik says, if it's fine, sleep. But as the kid lies down, his gaze slides along the wall, then straight to Chung-sik's room. Chung-sik told me his neck went ice cold. Did it go in? He asks, voice tight. Yes, sir, comes the reply. A shiver hits him hard, but he plays it tough. Whatever, you're good. I don't care about that crap. And stomps back, the door slamming loud enough to echo. Not dangerous, right? He double-checks. No, sir. Inside, though, he's freaking out. Pens rolling on the desk sound like scratches, his focus shot. He bails to the instructor's quarters, swaps with his junior. You sleep there tonight. Next day, the guy says, never had nightmares. Last night I did. Chung-sik kept quiet but thought, this kid's unreal. 2 more quick stories. One's a dawn shift at the obstacle course. Chung-sik's on watch, wind ripping through the trees, leaves rustling like whispers. His partner goes, black shadows coming. They signal, tense when this figure in a woman's dress, awkward, out of place, hops past, hands over its face, legs kicking out weirdly. Moonlight catches it and suddenly it drops its hands, thrusting a face at them. Chung-sik yells, move and I shoot, heart in his throat, but it hops off. Not North Korean gear, so they let it go, reported it. Some guy wanders like that sometimes. Ignore him, command says. Word spread among instructors, then trainees, including trainee 100. At graduation, he tells Chung-sik, that guy's a ghost, died wronged, maybe the bad guy, cursed to roam. Chung-sik said that hit him like ice. Another time, during drills, trainee 100 keeps muttering, something's off. Dust swirls outside, voices clash, and Chung-sik snaps. What's wrong? This place is full of spirits. Some North Korean ones are mixed in, and they're suddenly busy, he says. Chung-sik's like, no war. What's this about? That night, 3:30 a.m., he's guarding the ammo tower. Whole village in view, when a distant boom shakes the air. 5 seconds later, the tower quakes, his rifle rattling in his hands. For 10 minutes, every 5 seconds, boom, boom, his heart pounding, thinking. Artillery? He calls command, something's exploding, and it's chaos. Top brass, division and regiment commanders roll in, stars on their shoulders glinting. His platoon leader grills him. What did you hear? 10 minutes, 5-second gaps, he says, voice shaky. Okay, go rest. Next day, he asks, what was that? Can't tell you yet, comes the reply. Later, he learns it was North Korea digging tunnels. Made the news, those booms he felt. Trainee 100 had sensed those restless spirits gearing up for it. Chung-sik said that memory still haunts him. So, guys, what a ride, right? Chung-sik's tale gave me chills for days. Hard to believe it's real. Stay sharp out there. You never know what's lurking in the shadows. That's it for now. I'll bring more crazy stories soon, so smash that subscribe button and drop a like if you're hooked. Catch you next time. Stay safe.